It turns out May 2020 was not fated to be the month that I read all the books on my bookshelf. Well, what did I read? Let's check it out. Hi there! I'm Michelle with the Goffstown Public Library, where I'm an adult services librarian. My job is to bring the information you want or need to you when you want or need it. And even though I'm not physically in the library today, I hope I can do just that, which is why I'm coming to you for the 7th episode of Book Talk with Michelle. Today, we'll be wrapping up my May 2020 reading life. I've picked out 6 books for you. To kick things off, I am so excited to share that I finally finished Walking to Listen by Andrew Forsthofel. This has been a long time in coming. Walking to Listen was the only book that I read out of my May TBR video, and I'm so glad it was this one because it was the longest overdue. Walking to Listen is a coming-of-age odyssey and a memoir that chronicles the author's journey as he walks across America. He sets out to learn to become a man, but quickly realizes that he needs to learn about the diversity of experiences this country has to offer. Forsthofel has a lot to share about loneliness and death, as well as connection and love. By the time he finishes his journey at the Pacific Ocean, you can really see how he's grown. Now, for me, personally, at this time in my life, lots of qualifiers, I'm giving this book a 2 out of 5. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't like it. I still stand by my original recommendation of this book for recent graduates searching for meaning. It is very much within the literary tradition of Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer and Wild by Cheryl Strayed. But overall, I think Walking to Listen lacks the perspective that makes this genre appealing. It wouldn't surprise me if Forsthofel has grown even more since this book's publication. And it also wouldn't surprise me if he looks back on this book a little sheepishly, maybe a little embarrassed about all the self-important wisdom a 25-year-old thinks he has. But even though this tale didn't work for me right now, I think it could really connect to people in the middle of their own coming-of-age stories. The book really reaches for that demographic. There's aphorisms and life lessons galore that could really come home to someone who's in the middle of a big transition. But like I said, for me, right now, this book fell a little flat. So I'm not disappointed to see it leave my bookshelf and find a new home. After Walking to Listen, which was a long book and slow moving, I was looking for something short. So I chose Dear Life, a Fairy Tale by Sexsmith. I pulled this book off the library shelves because that cover art caught my eye. It was so good. And if the writing was half as good as the cover art, I might have actually enjoyed this book. Yeah, it's another 2 for me. This video is starting to be a little bit of a downer. Well, Dear Life is indeed a fairy tale. It's a charming story revolving around a charming cast of characters who encounter and ultimately conquer bullies and ne'er-do-wells. Characters are intertwined in unlikely ways, a mother's love perseveres against dark magic, and, of course, someone gets turned into a deer with a title like that. So what didn't work for me about this book? Well, I think in the end, it was a happy ending. Yeah, I can see what it says about me, that the overwhelming goodness of this story is what turned me off from it, but let me try to explain. There was no complexity here. The characters were caricatures, and I didn't believe in the action because it was so obvious that everything was going to turn out all right in the end. I might have been able to forgive the clumsy writing if there was something deeper, but there wasn't anything deeper. This was just a fable. In fact, I think I just suffered from inaccurate expectations about this book. I was thinking it was going to be for adults, but really this book could work the best as a children's chapter book. If you're looking for a bedtime story where the world is simpler and evil is easy to spot and easy to vanquish, then this is your story. It could be really good for that. But as an adult novella, it didn't work for me. It was just utterly too wholesome. Maybe I'm wrong and you should check it out yourself and tell me in the comments if you ended up liking this book. And I do want to make sure that I'm not saying that fairy tales can't work for adults. And I Do Not Forgive You, Stories and Other Revenges by Amber Sparks definitely proves that the genre can work well for an older audience. I didn't intend to pick up 2 sets of fairy tales this month, but it worked out well because And I Do Not Forgive You is the gritty and complicated foil to the simple and squeaky clean Dear Life. If you've ever read the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales, you know there's a disconcerting quality to them. They often twist in unexpected ways and leave morals ambiguous, endings less than happy. All the stellar stories in this collection have that quality. Plus, the writing is tight and biting. There's not a word out of place. All the magic, or the science fiction, depending on the story, really serves to illuminate the everyday evil we just learn to live with. Many of the stories had the claws to rip me open, but the heart and compassion so I could sew myself back up. And the short story format really worked for me right now, with my attention span ever decreasing. I'm giving this collection a 5 out of 5. It was totally great. And I recommend it for people who were promised happily ever after and ended up with reality, people who enjoy fractured fairy tales like Wicked by Gregory Maguire, or people looking for sharp and clever short fiction by a formidable author. Of course, I also enjoyed some graphic novels this month. I don't think any reading list is complete without them. The first one I read this month was The Girl in Dior by Annie Goetzinger? Well, you see it on screen. The Girl in Dior follows a young woman who begins her career as a fashion reporter, but through several twists of fate ends up starring more in the fashion world than reporting on it. I was very impressed by the artist's capabilities in this book. The art was so delicate. Lines were soft and the skies looked watercolored. You can really see Goetzinger's capabilities in the way she can draw hair, which is not an easy thing to do. But the real stunners are all the dresses. Oh, they were so gorgeous. All the fun and elegant designs really drove home that The Girl in Dior was an homage to the dedicated creatives who bring fashion to life. When the plot ran away from the author in the last half of the book, I almost didn't mind because the illustrations could carry the story on their own and they never missed a beat. In the end, this book reminded me of an old Barbie easy reader that my mother passed down to me. And I think my brain made the comparison because both stories celebrated fashion as something important in life, an art form that could change your future. I give this one a 4 out of 5. I wouldn't end up buying it, but it was definitely worth the read, especially if you're into historical fashion. And then I read Mera, Tidebreaker by Danielle Paige. This is another installment of DC's new imprint that recast its popular characters as teenagers, often playing with origin stories in creative ways. This is the 4th title in that line that I've read, and I just want to get this out of the way first. Harley Quinn Breaking Glass was the standard I've judged all the other books on. So if you're looking for the best one, at least that I've read in this line, I would recommend Harley Quinn. It's an exemplary examination of social issues facing teenagers told with popular characters used in a truly imaginative way. So good. You should read that. And you can also read Maratai Breaker. It was good. Obviously, I'm not gushing over it, but it was competent as a comic and a story. Mera, most well known as Aquaman's leading lady, is cast as the powerful and strong young woman she is. Mera is also teenage royalty, the princess of Exabel. I think that's how you say it. Probably should have looked it up before this video, but so she's the princess, and her father and her kingdom expect her to marry and introduce a new prince soon, but Mera has other plans in mind. When Exabel warriors plot to overthrow the colonizing rule of Atlantis, Mera seizes the chance to prove her mettle as a warrior and also prove to her father that she does not need a husband to rule. Her mission is to assassinate Arthur Curry, the long-lost prince of Atlantis, but Mera doesn't count on the unexpected and intense love between them. This book did a fine job introducing me to Mera and Arthur. The settings were well explored, as were the characters' defining traits. As I said, the art was competent, and I really liked the gimmick of Mera's red hair over the otherwise aqua frames. All in all, it was good. Nothing flew out of me as amazing, but I would definitely recommend it, especially to its target audience of teens and tweens or casual Aquaman fans. Die-hard lovers might be a bit disappointed, but for me, I give this a 3. And then last but not least, I enjoyed the audiobook version of The Story of Stuff by Annie Leonard. The Story of Stuff describes our collective obsession with stuff, how it's trashing our planet, our communities, and our health, and a path to move forward. I've read a lot of nonfiction about climate change, consumption, and sustainability. So I'm coming at this topic with a good bit of knowledge, but The Story of Stuff still had things to teach me. Indeed, I think this book is a cut above the rest. I learned new things, but I wasn't bludgeoned with science, and I wasn't left feeling hopeless in the face of a huge problem. That's commendable for a book of this topic. Honestly, it was inspiring. This book is very accessible, and I would recommend it if this is your first book or your 51st book on sustainability. Some of the data has probably changed since the 2010 publication. In fact, I'm sure of it. But it didn't detract from the book for me, because scary facts that are huge and incomprehensible often shut people out anyway. The strength of The Story of Stuff lies in its ability to personally connect us to these large challenges through the things in our home. So ultimately, the statistics didn't matter as much. But if you are looking for updated statistics, you might want to check out Inconspicuous Consumption by Tatiana Schlossberg, which came out last year. But back to The Story of Stuff, definitely giving that 5 out of 5, and highly recommend it for anyone who uses this planet's resources, which is to say, everyone. And that's it. 6 books that I've read in May. Any book that I mentioned today is listed in the description. Plus, find information about accessing all of these books from our downloadable resources, free with your library card. What have you been reading? Leave me a message in the comments if these were the books you intended to read, if you liked them, etc. I'd love to hear from you, and I've added a couple to my to-read list based on your suggestions. I know our audience gets a lot out of them. Like and share if you got something out of this video, and don't forget to subscribe for great content like book talks for all ages, story times, how-tos, crafts, and more. That more, I'm specifically thinking of the teen librarian Stacy, her cooking videos. They're so good, and you should check them out. I'll see you back here next Saturday for another book talk with Michelle. In the meantime, you can connect with the Goffstown Public Library on social media for even more book recommendations. Or visit goffstownlibrary.com to see what's in the catalog yourself. Again, I'm Michelle with the Goffstown Public Library, and I'll check you out later. Bye!